What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to another one of my videos. So as you may or may not know, I have a series of videos on this channel talking about if I were the owner of a certain theme park chain. I've done a video on Six Flags, Cedar Fair, and even SeaWorld. But I thought to myself, what if I went further from there? What if I owned roller coaster manufacturers? Not the ones who have the roller coasters in their parks, but the companies building and designing the roller coasters themselves. These vary from kiddie manufacturers to the manufacturers of the most innovative coasters in the world. And there are a few companies I decided to put in this video. Now, this could be the beginning of a 2 or 3 part series, because I only have 5 manufacturers on this list, and I think that there are many more to talk about. But without further ado, let's get into an improvement I would make at some coaster manufacturers if I were the owner. This is Cedar Flags, and today I want to talk about what I would do if I were the owner of certain coaster manufacturers. The first roller coaster company I want to talk about is S&S. This company goes back to the 1990s when Stan Checketts and his wife created S&S, a company that specializes on innovation and especially air-powered technology. Now, my main complaint with this company are the many reliable issues that this has with the coaster industry. Look at a ride like Steel Curtain, for example. That ride is closed all the time. So I would say the thing I would do first is fix the main issue with, in my opinion, the biggest thing that takes these coasters back from their full potential, their reliability. And second off, I would focus on that new car and new track type. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look at the new S&S models like Max Force and Steel Curtain. I really like the design of the trains and the restraints, and the track type is very smooth, it is very flexible, and it can do so many things. I mean, look at all the inversions that Steel Curtain and Max Force have together. I think if they decided to advertise this type of coaster more, I think it would get the word around. This would definitely be a great contender for a modern looping coaster, and can possibly take the place of some of B&M's older looping coasters. I say to focus on inversions because I think Steel Curtain is a great ride and a very good inversion machine. I could definitely see a bunch of these S&S roller coasters being built, but before any of that, I say fix the reliability issue, and they're on a good path. The second manufacturer I want to talk about on this list is one that I am very passionate about. It is Zamperla, which has made so many great flat rides in the coaster industry, but it's also made some great, well, roller coasters. In fact, a lot of roller coasters at Coney Island's Luna Park are by Zamperla, all but one, which is the Coney Island Cyclone. But when I got on some of these roller coasters like Soarin' Eagle or Thunderbolt, I noticed a little something. They were not painful by any means, but I was very uncomfortable throughout the entire ride. What do I mean by that? Well, let's just say that the restraints in the trains are not that good. A lot of people complain about Skyrush's restraints and Superman the Ride's restraints, and while I've never had a problem with any of those, I think that Thunderbolt's restraints, which are hard plastic and press on your thighs, are absolutely abysmal. I think if this ride was a Gerstlauer, let's say, and had the same exact layout, it would be a very fun ride, but I feel like it takes away all the potential that this ride could have had. Look at the other flying coasters compared to the Volare models. I feel like the number one thing that Zamperla could do, and the thing I would do if I were the owner, would be to focus on the restraints, make them more comfortable, add some more padding, just make them more of a good experience entirely. So people will get off some of the rides and think less, man, that was a painful ride, and more, that was a great ride experience. Because these layouts are insane. The only thing keeping Thunderbolt from being an elite roller coaster are those terrible lap bars and overall restraints. The next company I want to talk about is SBF Visa, otherwise known as SBF for short. And though this may be a little obscure of a company because they mostly make kiddie coasters, this coaster manufacturer has an absolute grip on the kiddie coaster industry. These SBF spinners, though small in size, are everywhere. This company adds roller coasters in every corner of the world, from small pizza places to the largest theme parks in the world. They are adding dozens of these a year and not stopping or showing any signs of stopping anytime soon. This is a very powerful manufacturer, and this company has connections all over the world in dozens of countries. This is a very, like I said, powerful company with a lot of money and a lot of money to do different things. So I would say, as the owner of this company, I would say let's focus the profit mainly on making more kitty coasters. That is obviously what they do best, and if they were to completely abandon that idea, that would be bad news. So even though I would make slight innovations, I would continue to make kitty coasters and focus on that for my main objective. But while the profit grows, I would like to dabble a little bit into the thrilling coasters. Let's say SBF makes a coaster slightly taller, like 60 or 70 feet, maybe a mild family thrill to some, and a good first thrill for little kids. I think this would be a great family intermediate thrill ride, and very similar to the Gravity Group family wooden coasters that provide a great thrill for enthusiasts, but are also not that big either. I think they could dabble into that with the resources that they have, and maybe build a few of them. But like I said, focus more on the family coasters. The fourth company we are going to be talking about is Premier Rides. Now I think this company does a lot of things right. They have a very successful clone, they make original layouts all over the world, and they are very well trusted by their clientele. This is a very great manufacturer, and even though it's not one of the greatest when it comes to ride collection, I think they are thriving in their department. But I think that's something that would improve this company, and something that I would do to move this company forward were to improve the trains. Now what do I mean by this? Very similar to Zamperla, but a little different. I feel a little uncomfortable in these trains, and no matter what height my friends are or body shape, they all agree with me. These trains are very claustrophobic, and it is very hard to get in and out of them, especially if you're a bigger person or a taller person. So I would say space out the trains a little bit between the rows, because when you ride an Intamin or B&M or RMC, you at least have a little bit of room to put your hands out and enjoy. But when you ride a ride like, let's say, a Skyrocket 2, you are crammed in your seat, especially if you're not in the front row. I feel like this would be the best decision to move on with Premier Rides, because this would solve two problems. One, to bend the track in a more flexible notion, and two, to make the guests and clientele feel less claustrophobic. Finally, for the final manufacturer I'm going to talk about in this video, I want to talk about Rocky Mountain Construction, or RMC for short. This is the biggest company I'm going to talk about in this video, because they have made some of the greatest coasters on the planet, and they have dabbled in so many different elements and areas that the coaster industry has not wanted to touch, like a launched wooden coaster. And even though that wasn't as successful as planned, I really do give it out to RMC for being that courageous. Anyways, what do I think the future of RMC could be? I think that they have to put a bunch of focus on the single rail, because even though that hybrids still need to be built, the single rail is what's getting everyone's attention, especially the general public. 4 years after the first ones came out, people are still freaking out over the fact that some of these roller coasters are on a single rail. So I say build more Raptors, maybe introduce the T-Rex possibly, but introduce a little bit of a Raptor experience before that, maybe introduce a few more Raptors all across the world before getting a T-Rex in, but in a few years time I would love to see a T-Rex eventually. So put a lot more investment into the single rail coasters, maybe even make some different models. Make a launch single rail to compete with the Intamin Hot Racer, maybe make a family style single rail coaster. It would be very cheap, the track would be very, very short, and I feel like that would be a very good cash grab for RMC. And then of course, you could make the T-Rex model and make it one of the best and tallest roller coasters in the world. So that's what I would do if I owned all 5 of these companies. Obviously I don't, I'm 20 years old, and I really don't have that much experience whatsoever, but I like to do it for fun. As you may or may not know, this is all just for the purposes of fun, no real research into it, just what I initially think can make the companies better. I would love to do a part 2 with some companies like Intamin and B&M, so let me know in the comments below if you think that would be a good idea for a video. Anyways, until next time, this is Cedar Flags, and I'll see you all later.